feel like I'm gonna be on the news.
Welcome to Our Family Podcast. Today's episode is a special one. We get to hear fun stories and heartfelt expressions of love about my mom, Mary Jane Nelson Minnick. On July 31st, 2000, Mary passed away after battling diabetes, among other chronic health illnesses. Today, 21 years later, we remember her through the words of her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
Say, we'll see if we can make it through talking about Grandma.
This is yours, so it's where you want it to be, right?
I feel like I'm gonna be on the news.
Isn't it weird? It's like these things.
And I kind of feel like I should have done my makeup.
You look fantastic.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Hope Minnick.
My name is Christian Merrill Minnick.
If you could describe Grandma Mary in one word, what would it be?
Based on the stories I've heard, the word I would pick is fun. She just seemed like a really fun person.
I think she'd be really fun.
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 I just remember her having a funny sense of humor and a really good laugh.
Funny. Funny.
Hilarious.
She was a very cute, lovable person that was fun to be around.
I'd say spunky.
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 Tenacious.
Every time I see like a picture of her, she's got big hair, she's got a bright outfit on.
I thought she's a beautiful lady with lots of beautiful hair.
She was spontaneous.
Pretty adventurous.
She was kind of a go-getter.
Spirited. Like she was just living life.
Selfless.
Priceless.
Nice.
Comforting.
Kind.
Kind.
When Grandma Mary was young, she had gotten a new coat for Christmas. And I think she was at recess and there was a little girl who had what looked to be rags on. And so she took off her coat and gave it to the little girl. And then when she got home, her parents or grandparents were like, "Where's the coat? Did you take it off and leave it somewhere? Where's the coat?" And when she showed them the coat that she had traded the little girl for, she said that that little girl had needed the coat more than I did.
Because that's what she was. She was a nurturing, caring, loving, fun person.
Genuine.
Understanding.
I would describe Grandma Mary as an excellent leader.
Awesome.
Incredible.
I don't know how she raised 6 boys. 6 crazy wild boys. I only have 2 boys, and I'm about to toss my biscuits. It's so hard. I don't even know if that's a saying.
Resilient.
Direct.
Independent.
Sassy.
All the things I know about Grandma Mary is that she's very kind, but she's also very stern. Very opinionated, but she's also very loving and forgiving.
She was stern, could tell you like it was, but at the same time do it in a loving way.
What is your favorite story about Grandma Mary?
She always called me Ladybug.
She used to call me Ladybug.
She used to call all of the girls Ladybug.
I remember Danny telling us all the time, and I don't remember which of the uncles did this, but they would go and it was when they were under the age of driving, and they would sneak the car out and go grab some silly sacks from McDonald's. And they would do that, you know, every so often in the summer. And one of the nights, they were coming back, and Grandma was sitting out on the porch waiting for them. And she was saying, you know, I've seen you guys leave so many different times. You think you could at least bring me a silly sack home one of these times?
When I was young, probably 8 to 10, Grandma Mary and I and Greg used to play hot box. And Grandma was really good at it back then. So how you play hot box is you have two people with mitts and a baseball, and then one person runs in between to each base to try to stay safe, and they're the person that's hot. Once they get tagged, then they're out and you switch. So Grandma Mary used to go back and forth, believe it or not, in that hot box, running back and forth, and she could do it for 5-10 minutes without Greg or I getting her.
When we were little, my brother Dave brought us home a little yellow chick, and we named it Daffy. And me and Carol, it would follow all around the yard. Everywhere we went, Mary, it wouldn't follow her at all. And she was pretty sad about it, but one Sunday, for some reason, this little chick started following her around the yard, and she was so happy. She was jumping up and down, and she jumped on that little chick and killed it. We buried it, and she was so sad because that was the only time that little chick ever followed her, and she killed it.
When Doug and I were in high school, we went vegan for a while, and we had this recipe that we made that was honey oatmeal cake. And we thought because it didn't have any sugar in it, we could give it to Mary and she would love it. So we made a big pan and we gave it to her, and she loved it and ate 2 pieces, and it nearly put her under the table because it was full of honey.
She knew how to take us right to the ground. I remember Russ and I gave her a bad time. She had taken self-defense, and she grabbed our thumbs and twisted it right down to her wrists, and we dropped to the ground in a heartbeat.
She was aggressive enough to take on any one of you boys and discipline them, get on a chair. She'd do anything to make her point.
So when Mike and I were little, we decided to make V8. We get out Mom's food processor and we put in celery. We put in carrots. We put in tomatoes. Accidentally, the food processor just blew chunks of vegetables every direction. I was aware that there was this possibility that my mom might be coming home. So knowing this, I go to the back door. I locked it. Then there was a chain so that nobody could break into the house. So I latched the chain on the back door and went back over to the kitchen, and I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's home. Somebody's knocking on the back door. So I say, Mike, somebody's at the back door. I think it's Carrie Barrett. And so I just had to say whatever it would take to get Mike to go to the back door. So she's pounding like bloody murder on the back door. And she is screaming, open the door. So of course, Jimmy, the less smarter brother, goes over to the back door, opens the chain, opens the door, and there is my mom. And she is 100% furious. And she came in and she rained upon him. Nothing compared to when the wrath of Mary Minnick rained upon you.
She was tending Spencer, Lauren, and I. She had that blue car. And she would always take us to Macy's to get King Kong cones. And she left me there. She left me at Macy's and forgot me when I was like 5 years old. And my mom got really mad at her. But when I think about it, I just kind of laugh and chuckle.
I have a lot of stories about Grandma Mary, but I would say on probably Russ's and I 3rd date, I had gone to pick him up and we were walking out the door and Grandma Mary said, and I quote, "Be careful, and if you're not, name him after me." And then I thought, oh wow, I kind of knew what I was getting into with Grandma Mary, that she was just really fun and had a fun personality.
When she was dating Chuck, they were always normally in the car right ahead of us.
And you could always tell when Chuck was kissing Mary because his foot went on the brake.
Chuck would kiss Mary, he'd step on the brake.
We told him about that one time. Oh, I do not.
And she said I kissed her. I can't believe that.
Every time he kissed her, he'd, so went on the brake quite often.
Mine is more of like a feeling that whenever I saw her, I felt like she was doing the exact same thing. I remember going to her house and I remember her smell and her hugs and the smell of hairspray in her bathroom. She'd be brushing her hair with that aerosol hairspray, and she had this mirror that she'd always be looking at herself in. And I actually have the mirror. I don't know if anyone knows that, but you can't have it. I have it.
She'd be sitting on her couch like this. and I would sit right here in this little crook.
She'd be sitting up on the sofa, her legs up, kind of like this.
Behind her legs, and she had scratchy heels, I remember.
Usually we'd be walking in, I'd hear something like, "Damn it, Chuck!"
I'm sorry, but that was Mary's favorite saying was, go to hell.
I remember she used to roll her eyes whenever Dad would go off on a tangent or a lecture.
She was ironing your dad a white shirt for church. And he told her, he says, Mary, we don't do that on Sunday. Like, well, you should have done it earlier in the week. And she just said, well, why don't you go to hell? And he told her, he said, we do not swear in this house. So, and this coming from Mary telling me, she said, so I just went around saying, hell, damn it, hell, damn it, hell, damn it. Until he got so mad. And she said, well, you can go to church with a shirt that's ironed, or you can go to church without a shirt at all. I don't give a damn. That's how Go to Hell came about.
Her and her sisters were funny, and they would have fun all the time.
When her and I used to go up to Carol's every Saturday, we had to walk up to her house, and we did dishes, and we cleaned the house, and we did all kinds of stuff. And Carol would leave her dishes from Saturday to Saturday. And so one Saturday, we'd kind of had a gutful of it. And Mary said, let's box these dishes up and put them down the basement where Carol can't find them.
Without question, she teased an awful lot.
And so we did. We only left her enough dishes for one day. We went back up the next Saturday. She was so mad at us. And Mary just told her, she said, if you don't like it, just go to hell, because this is what we're doing. We're not doing dishes. So if you don't like it, we're not coming back. And we came back.
Weird thing, I actually have dreams about Grandma Mary a lot. And one dream, I've actually told my dad about this. And this was like after when we're all resurrected, and I don't have cerebral palsy anymore. And tells me in the dream, she's like, do you want to go to Disneyland with all the family? I was like, yeah. So we went on every single ride there is, and we also went to a baseball game, an Angel baseball game after that. And it was really fun.
My mom, when she found out she was pregnant with me, she was kind of worried about telling my dad. She was really worried.
I had this dream that Marla was pregnant.
She prayed to ask if Grandma Mary would go to my dad in a dream and tell her that she was pregnant with me.
And I was not happy about it in any way, shape, or form. But the reason that's one of my favorite stories is because Grandma Mary came to me and I heard her voice. I didn't see her in person, but I could hear her voice. And she told me that I needed to be calm. So later on, I get home from Trek, and it's the middle of the night, and Marla said she's really, really hot, and I said, do you want a popsicle? And she said, no, it'll make me nauseous. And I said, well, do you think you're pregnant? And she said, well, I was praying that you would find out on Trek, but I do think that I'm pregnant. And I'm like, whoa. So that really freaked me out. So I do the 15-year-old trot, right? You know, I run over to Harmon's, no socks, no shoes, and we take the test, and sure enough, Marla's pregnant.
And I'm here.
But I thought it was very, very comforting that my mom came to me at the proper time, and it just took all the pain and agony and thrill of defeat out of whatever I was doing away.
I think my favorite stories are like the stories about all of the bad Minnick family car wrecks.
This was the beginning of her wrecking the cars.
And there are a lot of stories that are very funny about Mom.
When she crashed into a ditch.
Where she ran over a bunch of fence.
She took down like 60 feet of fence off of the highway.
She hit the neighbor's fence, and then she took out Carl's bush as we came into the driveway.
Or where she drove out on the airport tarmac.
Going on the plane runway.
When she drove down the runway with Another lady.
Grandpa was working at the airport or something, and she was driving there and she couldn't figure out why she was on this road with no traffic.
She was going to drop off
lunch to Grandpa.
And it was really well lit and everything.
She somehow was driving on like the Salt Lake City airport tarmac.
But she was driving on like the plane runway.
And she ended up on the plane tarmac, driving through that.
And the police found her and tried to pull her over because she was on the runway. And then they escorted her all the way to Grandpa to deliver the lunch.
So that's iconic.
I bet Grandpa was so embarrassed.
Any other things you want to say about Grandma?
There's so many things I'd want to like tell her and talk to her about.
That she's a good angel. She's a good angel.
It's been really cool to know that she's been watching over our family and the whole Minnick family. I have definitely felt her presence multiple times in my life since.
So one day when I was coming out of the Nauvoo temple on my mission, I came out and there was so many ladybugs, just like hundreds of ladybugs, all up in the walls, all up in the ceilings. I had never seen so many ladybugs before, and that just reminded me of her and that she's right by my side.
This past year, dang it, I don't want to cry. She showed up for me a lot of times. One time when I was really, really having a hard time, I was staying up in Heber at my in-laws' cabin, and it was the middle of winter, dead of winter. And all of a sudden, I started seeing ladybugs everywhere in the house. They were alive, they weren't dead. In the middle of winter, they were flying around, crawling around, and my in-laws were like, where are all these ladybugs? Why are they here? And where did they come from? And I knew it was my grandma sending me a little message that I had to keep going. And every time I see a little ladybug, I think of her, and I think it's her little way of showing me that she's still there. She's still watching over us. Yeah, that's why I said she's a good angel.
The night that Grandma passed away, I was in my bed, and I didn't know, I mean, we knew she was sick. So I remember that my mom and I actually picked up a prescription for her that day and took it to her, and I ran inside and gave her some Gatorade and the prescription, and we were in a really big hurry. So it was a in and out job, and that was the last time I saw her. I remember her telling me that she loved me on the way out, and later that night I was asleep. I didn't think I was asleep. I thought she was there babysitting me. I had this rocking chair in my room, and she was sitting there talking to me while I was in my bed. And the next thing I knew, my parents had come inside and told me that she passed away. And so while they were at the hospital, this is the honest truth, she was sitting right there with me the whole time, literally talking to me. And so I don't know that I would call myself a very spiritual person anymore, but that is one experience I've had that I will always remember.
She was a good friend. You know, a mother, a good friend, somebody you could talk to and she would listen.
I just remember when I was very little that I did not have a lot of strong friendships. And it was just basically Mom and I in the house. And Mom made sure that I was okay. Every day. She would make sure that when I didn't have friends that I could hang out with Mom. I think everyone's mom tries to do that, but Mom did an exceptional job.
You know, since she left us 20 years ago, it leaves a hole, right? And it will be a good reunion to see her again.
I think she was the hardest and still is. I probably
probably missed her more as I get older than I do anybody else. I felt like I'd lost part of me. And I still do. I still want to pick up the phone and call her. And she's been gone, 21 years now? And it's not any easier. Mary and I were close, even through marriages, kids, grandkids. We used to call each other at least, not every day, maybe every other day, and say, guess what so-and-so's doing, or guess what happened, or, and I miss that. I really miss that.
Just how she treated the boys. I'm too emotional. I know the older boys don't remember her, but I like the fact that she loved them for who they were, and with this race, that it wasn't a big deal to her. And I really, really appreciated it.
You know, I have friends and their parents pass, and recently someone's parent passed that's in our circle of friends, and he just didn't know how to deal with it. And I said, there isn't a day that I don't wake up and think about my mom. In the course of the day, something happens, and I think of a behavior she taught me.
My favorite story or something I've heard about Grandma Mary, because I don't remember too much, is a phrase that my dad told me she said, and that is "can't died." And I often remember that phrase that she used to say to him and all the uncles.
And we all still remember her for all of her goodness, and sometimes all of her funny things. Sometimes they were crazy things.
And she would giggle, and sometimes she would fart when she giggled, which made it even funnier.
But since she's died, I think about her several times a week, if not every day.
I think one of the things I remember most about her is she just loved family, and that she just was always, especially when the grandkids started coming along.
I remember Spencer. She was so tickled. And then Lauren, and she got a little girl. And I think she tried her hardest to play with them and be a good grandma.
I saw her health improve, and she just wanted family around all the time, and was always planning activities like Easter egg hunts, or, cookies for Valentine's, or wanted them there for Halloween. We would meet there for Halloween. And it was fun to see her go from not feeling well to seeing what the grandchildren did to kind of liven up her spirits.
She was so excited when people came. If she knew we were coming, if I was bringing the kids over, she would always be waiting on the front porch. Rain or snow, however cold it was or hot it was, she would just be out there sitting on the porch. So when we pulled up, we would see her.
She really cared about people.
She really put everybody, Chuck and all the boys, the grandkids and everybody first, including to the detriment of her health.
And sometimes she cared so much that she didn't know why they weren't responding well to it.
What is something you would want Grandma Mary to know about you?
Just like the little things, like where I go to school, and like what grade I'm in, and where I live, that kind of stuff.
The one thing that I would want to share with her is like how cool it's been sharing a name with her, because I'm named after her. Knowing that people think that I'm like her is like so cool. And so it's like, I don't really know you, and I never really got to meet you, but it's like, but I'm like you. So that's cool.
She liked doing sculpting with like porcelain, I think. And I've started doing clay, and I really like that.
That I like animals.
that my full name is Levi Aslan Minnick, and what I want to be when I grow up.
I think just that we love her and that we talk about her with our kids and they love her too.
I want Grandma Mary to know that I'm excited to meet her again as an adult and not as a child, and that I'm really grateful for the family she built and the example she set for my dad and me, and that I love her, and I'm excited for her to meet Bree one day.
That I miss her and that I'm okay.
That I'm okay. Mom hung on for a long time to make sure I was okay, to make sure others of my brothers were okay, to make sure that Dad was okay, but I'm okay and I'm happy. And we have a great family that is very well connected, and that we have 6 kids and they love one another. And I have someone that I know she approved of as my wife. She met Liz before she died.
See, we're happy. Huh? Are we happy? Yep.
I may not have been able to live it the exact way that all the standards and exact ways that people push on us. I have not been able to do that. I wasn't able to serve a full-time mission. I am struggling and a half in college, and I don't even know if I'll finish it. But I'll tell you this, Grandma. Regardless of all those things, I am a lot happier just being me. And I think that's the most important. And that I love you. Actually, I would say that too.
She's a good mother and she raised her sons right.
I would say thank you for raising such great uncles and a dad.
I'm grateful for my uncles that she raised and my dad especially. They wouldn't be where they are or who they are if Grandma Mary didn't raise them in the way that she did.
I'd probably tell her, we made it. We did it.
She was an awesome grandma. She was an awesome grandma.
That's just a picture I'll never forget of Whitney and Weston crawling on her lap and hanging out with their Gram. And I miss and love her so much, and I'm so excited for the day when we get to reunite with Mary Jane Nelson Minnick.
Thank you for listening to the stories and words we share today by various members of our family. We love you, Mom. We'll see you soon. The door, and there is my mom, and she is 100% furious.
Am I allowed to say that?
You could. Okay, you can't cry, because if you cry...
You're already crying.